Hello, we are Team 283, and this is our CCCD assignment. So what we did for our CCCD assignment is we read Chapter 8 of the book, which discussed a lot of how minorities are often treated in the workplace, especially in engineering workplaces, and how it changes across the spectrum. So some of the preconceptions that our team had going in was that this kind of discrimination against different minorities only occurs in the very extremes, like the quote-unquote tokens. But what we learned throughout the chapter is that this treatment doesn't only happen to the tokens, it happens across the whole spectrum. And some of the studies even showed that the people who were in these quote-unquote simple minorities that were like 30 to 40% minorities would actually get treated worse than the people who are these tokens, because these token people, their voices would be heard, whereas with the simple minorities, they wouldn't be heard. Now, that being said, the tokens oftentimes will be, like, somebody will listen to them, but they won't hear them. They'll hear what they're saying, but they're not going to actually act upon it, even if they have a better idea than anyone else in the room. And how this will impact my decision-making and choices in the workplace is I've now learned that I really need to listen to all people, no matter their race, sexuality, anything like that. Because even if I might not see them as a minority, if I don't listen to them, they will feel unheard. And that's really not good to be uninclusive in a workplace, especially one where all different people have so many different backgrounds, and so these people from different backgrounds often will have better ideas on certain topics than I would. And then if we can combine these different ideas from different people together, we can make a stronger product in the end.
A byproduct of that entire system is essentially that there are so many women and minorities who feel the need to do even better than their counterparts and perform better just to get the same amount of recognition, which I always kind of knew because people had always told me about it, like common women that I'm friends with or girlfriends, been like, yeah, you have to do more work to kind of get to that area. And the issue with that is that I never realized that it's kind of like a line that they feel like they have to walk, because on one side there's that, but on the other side it's like if you do too good, they feel like they will get some kind of resentment from like males who feel that they have like a dominant or need to just be the best. The article referred to it as dominance, but this need to feel for the best, they fear that it'll give them some sort of resentment from their coworkers. So it's like a line they have to walk over. They have to work harder, but they can't work too much harder. And it's really sad that they feel like they have to do more than anyone else to get the same stuff, but then they also feel limited. And it's just to a point where it's like a lose-lose situation.
Hello, my name is Nathan Thompson of Group 283, and there are many differences between our ENED group and the groups of people or tokens that the book was referring to, and the biggest probably being race or even gender. Reading this chapter benefited me a lot by helping me understand the other cultures and recognizing discrimination and sexism in the workplace. Before reading the chapter, I had no idea how rough it was to not be a white male at a corporation and how poorly people were treated. It is very important in the engineering industry to learn about these other cultures, because a person of a different culture may be your coworker, your boss, or maybe even a client. Reading this chapter will help our team develop skills that will better me and my group as engineers.
Hi, I'm Nate Heath from Team 283. I'm just going to be doing a little conclusion of what went on during our CCCD assignment, which was reading Chapter 8 of the book that was provided. So I guess going into it, we didn't really have many preconceptions. None of us had ever been in an engineering workforce really before, or we hadn't seen firsthand what went on in a workforce like that, like the friction or tension or whatever you want to call it that the book talked about. That wasn't something that we had experienced or seen, and so we didn't really have many preconceptions of it. But as we were reading the book, we all agreed that it was pretty eye-opening as far as kind of seeing firsthand or results from studies or results from interviews of what friction or tension, or again, whatever you want to call it, that minorities in the workforce experience, especially because, we're all white males, so I think it's safe to say that we don't experience as much of that oppression in the workforce as minorities do, for sure. And so it's not really something that we've grown up experiencing that much, or it's not something that we're accustomed to. And so reading through this book and seeing accounts of people kind of coming across this tension, or just the ways in which minorities are treated in the workplace, was super eye-opening. And so, yeah, it was a really interesting read. I guess one challenging thing to read was when the book talks about how if you have a pair of women who, is a minority in an engineering workforce, if you have a pair of women, they'll specifically try to split you guys up by either really congratulating one woman and kind of degrading the other, or just creating overall tension between the women or competition between the women. It's a really almost kind of evil strategy that they use to specifically break up pairs of women, which is not something that you would expect to be. So something specific from this chapter that was really eye-opening for all of us is near the end, it talks about how tokens, as the book refers to it, meaning minorities, who are in pairs, are often purposely split up by either the company or more likely people within the company by creating separation or reason to kind of dislike each other, such as maybe having them compete for a raise, or complimenting one and kind of degrading the other. Any reason to cause separation, these companies are doing that. And it's super eye-opening because it's something that you wouldn't really expect from a established workforce or business, and it's super evil and super corrupt. So it was very eye-opening to read that. But I guess, wrapping it up into more of a conclusion, the main conclusion of the chapter says that in order to change a company for the better and remove this oppression, this tension that is resulting from the misproportioned amount of minorities to majorities, you have to change the proportion rather than changing the total amount of employees. So one thing it talks about that companies do is they'll just hire more employees, which means more minorities, but it also means more majorities. And so that doesn't change the proportion of minorities to majorities at all. And it just keeps the oppression tension there still. So what you have to do is you have to hire more minorities and hire less majorities to keep the relative balance of the company intact, and so that you'll have less oppression and tension. Thank you.